Hello everyone. In the last episode we built the login screen where if I do not enter anything I get validation message, which is nice. However, if everything is right, then the application crashes, and it crashes because in the login v4 controller we did not have code for handle valid submission. So in this episode we are going to build handle valid submission. However, before we start building, since in this episode we are going to authenticate against a real API, so we need that API up and running, and I have already built that and it's up and running here. So this is the source code, big binary LRM authentication. LRM stands for learn RubyMotion, and here is an example. So this Rails based application is deployed on Heroku, and this is the URL, and it already has been populated with a user record john@example.com, and password is welcome. So if I hit send, then I get a response success true and the auth token. And just to test the other case, let me change the password value, and this time I should get that success is false and it's 401 unauthorized. So this is the service we will be using in our application. Once again, the source code is available at this URL. So now let's get back to our application and start with handle valid submission. So rather than typing the whole thing, I have login v5 controller, and here we can see the implementation of this method, which simply calls another method called process authentication, and it passes email, device token, and password. By the way, this app persistence device token thing, it comes for free to us because of bubble wrap. So now our task is to actually authenticate against a real API with these values, email and password. So rather than typing the code here, I have extracted it out and I have put all that in another class called authentication service. However, to authentication service I pass self, and that is because depending on whether the login has failed, has succeeded, or there was some server error, that authentication service invokes one of these three methods. And in case of login failure, we just say login failed. In case of success, we say you are logged in, and in case of server error, we say something went wrong. So now let's go and look at authentication service. This is authentication service class. So we have attribute reader, hash, and the client, and this is the API login endpoint, which is the URL of the application deployed on Heroku. And this is the client and the options. So first I get the email, the device token, and the password, and build the hash. So this is the easiest stuff. And then using bubble wrap JSON.generate feature, we get the payload in JSON format. I set up the headers, and then once again bubble wrap has a utility to make an HTTP post request. So that's what we do here. This is the login endpoint. We pass the headers and then we pass the payload. We get the response and then we invoke the method handle response. And once we get the response, depending on the response status code, 401 is unauthorized. So say handle login failed, and then if everything goes fine, then handle login successful, and in case of server error, handle server error. And that's it. It's as simple as that. So now let's go ahead and run this application. Rake part 5. And this time if I say, first of all, let me input wrong credentials, I get the message login failed. And if I say john@example.com, welcome, I get you're logged in. And here in the log you can see the JSON data that we are getting back from the server. That's it for this episode. I will see you next time. Thank you.